Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of ARtillry Innovators, our video interview series with leaders in the VR and AR worlds. I'm Mike Bolin, Chief Analyst at ARtillry Intelligence, and my guest today is Yuan Rong, VP of Product Development at uSens. Yuan, welcome and thanks for joining us.
Hi.
So we actually have a lot to talk about, but let's start with the basics. So for those unfamiliar, give us a quick description of uSens and your role at the company.
Sure. So uSens is a human-computer interaction solution company. We provide human-computer interaction solutions for mostly 3D and immersive display systems. For example, we started at augmented reality in the virtual reality world. We especially provide hand tracking and 6-stop positional tracking for AR VR headsets, and then gradually extending to smartphone AR as well as large screen automotive HMI systems.
So as you mentioned, the company has actually done a lot based on its core technology. So traditionally, that's been applied to hand tracking and 26 degree of freedom gesture-based controls, which are, of course, a key component of immersive tech like VR. But also you've kind of diversified and moved into things like your AR engine, which I want to get into in a minute. But first, let's start with the core technology and the human-computer interaction that you're innovating. So tell us a bit more about that and what kind of differentiates the technology, especially from other players in the space like Leap Motion or others.
Sure. That's a good question. If what we're seeing here today, like say for example, 30, 40 years ago, we started with less than 10-inch display for personal computing, and now we're seeing screens at 85 inch as in TV, and if we're on headsets, any VR headsets gives you the viewing experience of more than 100 to 120 inch experience, and it's immersive. If that trend comes true, that we won't find it very long to see like the prevalence of all the 3D immersive systems for displays. And if you go to 3D, you need to definitely have a new way of interaction. Keyboard is a bad idea. Mouse is a bad idea. Touch screen, you won't be able to have it. 6-stop controllers today, as we see it, is a good evolution, but it's not what we're looking for ultimately. So what do we see? So we have this paper exercise, basically saying, okay, assume 100% 3D immersive system in the future in the next 30 or 50 years. What is the preferred way of interaction with the digital information you want to have? So our conclusion that is same thing that you have in your real life. That is your bare hand. So that's why we're so interested in bare hand interaction.
That makes sense. And overall, one key trend that we're looking at in terms of the evolution of immersive technologies is inputs, and particularly moving towards inputs that are more natural, as opposed to a barrier between you and the technology. It's an extension in terms of an input. So I love the philosophy behind your technology. So I want to move on to more recently, as I alluded to earlier, uSens launched uSens AR, which is the kind of AR engine. So tell us a little bit about that, and how does it kind of leverage or apply the core technology that you talked about, but towards mobile AR? And before you answer that, I'll mention a few kind of numbers just to give some background to our audience, which is that, AR Core and AR Kit, of course, have come along and what I like to say democratized high-end AR for more devices. But if you look at AR Core, it reaches about 100 million or so Android devices in terms of those that are compatible with the platform. You've taken that a step further in terms of that principle of democratization and brought it to many more Android. The overall Android universe is about 2.6 billion units as opposed to that 100 million that now AR Core reaches. So tell us a little bit about how you've kind of done that in terms of an AR engine that brings that capability to some of those just more voluminous and lower end Android devices.
Sure, it's a good question. So I talked to one of my friends. Back then, one of my very close friends works at Nutanix. He basically the company that come up with Pokemon Go, and we had this conversation together. He's like, dude, don't you think making augmented reality on headset is still quite some years down the road? and it's expensive. I'm like, yes, I just get hammered by multiple customer actually doing the darn headset and tell me the same thing. And he's like, okay, if you find it, the reason that is hard for people to adopt is because you have a low cost hardware. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? He's like, yes, low cost hardware is not good enough. You need to have zero cost hardware instead of low cost hardware. I'm like, basically I asked him, hey, how can I do that? He's like, okay, there's one solution. You make that work, make your piece of software work on cell phones, and then boom, everything's gonna work. So when first time I hear it, I'm like, okay, that's a dumb idea. Because cell phone making AR features on cell phones, are you kidding me? That's like that idea is like 20 years old, and everybody working in the AR industry hates it. But he made a very good point, just like exactly like what you just said now, giving basically democratize the experience of AR. Basically, everybody have a cell phone will be able to have it. So we take a step further. Looks like what Pokemon Go can do is only on iPhones. That's all the high-end phones. Then why don't we go a step further and starting to make AI experience from even the lowest end phones, like the sub $150 phones or sub $200 phones.
So, one thing I'm wondering too is that, when it comes to all of the things that uSense is working on, and that's hand tracking and gestural controls and inputs, and then also moving into AR, as you just characterized, what are you believe are still the kind of untapped areas where you're looking forward to growing, and that could be different use cases or even verticals that might be underserved, such as education and commerce and healthcare and retail and all of these different areas where AR and VR are proposed to add a lot of value. Where do you see the most opportunity, and where are you excited to grow into?
Yes, that's a good question. So we're actually looking for a lot of killer apps or killer apps to be in the AR VR market. Not surprisingly, the first stop that we hope was the second stop, but eventually ultimately become the first stop is gaming. A lot of AR games, augmented reality games try to blend augmented reality information into the actual objects to make a video game. That kind of thing is booming all the time. And if you want to make things more fancier, then you're trying to locate different. You're trying to do multiplayer, and that's where augmented reality is going to play an even bigger role. So we see a lot of that. We're working with some of the gaming vendors like that to bring like new dimension of gaming experiences to the customers. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. But we're also very interested in other areas like education. Obviously, we see this big wave of adding multimedia digital information to the current textbooks, and we see a lot of people doing this. And if you want to do rich media in a better way, you need interaction solutions, and we see a lot of people asking for that. And we're waiting to a point where people really ask for that and willing to pay for that at a reasonable price, and then we're gonna see tremendous growth. I'm seeing like we're probably anywhere between, I don't know, I'm making this up, 12 to 24 months away.
So I really agree with you when it comes to multiplayer, because I believe social will be at least a category where we'll see a lot of killer apps in AR. And I think a lot of that hinges on being able to play and see things together. And that also brings new dimension and social appeal and helps AR reach a network effect faster. So it's very interesting. I'm glad to hear that you guys are working towards that goal as well. So as a final question, briefly speaking, what else can we expect from you since for the remainder of 2018? And what are your biggest goals?
Yes, my biggest goal is really on the AR and VR side. We really hope to work with some great content makers and make some great contents to bring into. Actually, right now we already realize that bringing the ultimate VR and AI experience to the customer is the ultimate meaning that we're doing. We're working as an industry.
Well, as Bill Gates said, content is king, and it's very much, I think, ringing true in immersive technologies. We're already seeing that be the case and really drive a lot of the hardware adoption that in turn drives more content, and it becomes a virtuous cycle. So I think content is a key to kind of unlocking that cycle. So that's actually all the time we have, but I want to thank you, Yuan, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
And thanks all of you for watching, and stay tuned for more episodes of ARtillry Innovators and more published material and market coverage and insights and lots of the other formats we're developing here at ARtillry, which you can find at artillery.co. And especially check out our new research subscription, which you can find at artillery.co/subscribe. So this has been ARtillry Innovators. I'm Mike Boland. Thanks for watching.